Who's good? Who's bad? I don't freaking know, but we're ranking them. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to another episode of Packcast, a podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. Nope, this is not getting any easier. Grossi, and today we are going to be ranking the top 10 teams heading into week 3 of the NFL, and week 2, in some cases, was a course correction for some teams. The Bills, the Chiefs, they came away with the W. The Bengals, they dropped to 0-2. Some panic there. There's some 2-0 teams that are a bit surprising, looking at you, basically entire NFC South except the Panthers, also the Commanders as well. So the AFC is just a weird hodgepodge of teams that are good, kind of, and then there's the NFC, which is just the Wild Wild West, and it's crazy. But either way, we're going to get into it, and I hate to pull a Brandon Perna here, but I do have some honorable mentions. The honorable mentions are the Commanders, who are 2-0 after a stunning comeback against the Broncos. And listen, I love Brian Robinson a lot. Scary Terry is arguably one of, if not my favorite wide receiver in all of the NFL. I don't really believe in their O-line a whole lot, but Chase Young was a game wrecker, and I have to shout out the Commanders there for being 2-0. Also got to shout out the Jaguars. You didn't make the list just because it was a bit of an ugly game and one of you wasn't going to make the list and the Chiefs had to. So Jaguars, I expect to see you back here soon. And finally, the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are on the list because they got a big win against the Lions and their loss to the Rams looks a bit better. But this is an opportunity to make some history here at the NFC South, so I'm going to take it because these teams are likely not going to be on here later in the year. And of course, you have the Lions, but right now, I'm more afraid of your injuries than anything. So let's get started with number 10. And that is going to be the first of 3 NFC South teams, which is definitely history here. First, you got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And you might be saying, whoa, Tom, the Buccaneers, they look better than maybe the Falcons or look better than the Saints. And the only reason why the Buccaneers are at number 10 and below their counterparts in the South is because the quality of their opponents have not been good. And I can tell you that because I'm in a division with them. They defeated the Vikings week 1 to the surprise of a lot of people, and then they knocked off the Bears. And listen, Baker Mayfield has been playing really good football. On top of that, that defense looks young. They're flying around. They're aggressive. And there's a lot to like with what Tampa Bay is doing right now. I mean, hell, that pass rush that the Buccaneers had against Justin Fields had him like this. And I love Mike Evans, who is one of the most consistent wide receivers in the NFL, potentially of all time. Guy just keeps on hitting 1,000 yards regardless of who his QB is. And I really like what the Buccaneers are doing. I'm curious to see them against some better competition. But right now, welcome to the top 10, Tampa Bay. We'll see how long you stay. Number 9, you got the New Orleans Saints. After picking up the W against the Panthers on Monday Night Football, even though it was not pretty, they moved to 2-0. They beat the Titans week 1 in an ugly matchup, and the Saints being 2-0 is not really a credit to their offense because Derek Carr, he's been playing okay football, and I imagine this is how he's talking to Chris Olave after last night.
Well, far be it from me to keep the flower of youth from flourishing.
Because Chris Olave is an absolute stud. Of course, Jamal Williams unfortunately getting injured last night, but that offense just seems a little bit stagnant and not living up to its potential. I imagine it'll be better when Alvin Kamara returns in week 4. But overall, the Saints, they beat the Titans, who just beat the Chargers, so I think the quality opponent is there. It's just going to be a matter of how far can that offense take them. We're going to find out shortly. Number 8, you got the Atlanta Falcons. That's right, the Falcons who beat the Panthers and then beat the Packers. But it was how they beat the Packers, in which they were down 12 in the 4th quarter, and they said, hey, let's just give it to our guy Bijan Robinson, who I imagine was hyping up his team at halftime like this.
You are all alive! Look at the mustard on my face, but listen to my words.
Because Bijan Robinson was absolutely incredible. You see why the Falcons drafted him top 10, and Arthur Smith is a good head coach. I like him. Desmond Ridder, the jury is still out, but he did well against the Packers in that second half, especially that fourth quarter. And I feel like once the Falcons utilize their run game to its full potential, and they put Desmond Ridder in there, they're going to start clicking because they have weapons on that offense. Algier is really good. Kyle Pitts, maybe if they decide to throw him the ball, can be really good. But that combination of Bijan and Algier, then with the, is Desmond Ridder going to keep it because he's a mobile QB? That is a phenomenal skill set to have. Meanwhile, the defense played pretty well. They made Jordan Love uncomfortable in the fourth quarter. And the Falcons are not like a super flashy team, but they are a ground and pound team. And I think that with that style of offense, they could go far. I think they're going to be up there competing for the division title this year. And right now, it lands them at number 8. Let's see how far you can fly. Number 7, you got the Kansas City Chiefs slowly climbing back up the top 10. And here's the thing. I like the outlook of the Chiefs a lot, but gosh, that was an ugly game against the Jaguars. The offense, even though Mahomes threw for over 300 yards, just looked not great. The defense, however, was a different story. Chris Jones coming back to the Chiefs like,
good news, guys. I spent all my money.
He played pretty damn well, and that defense is weird because every now and then they'll have a really good game like they did last year, and they're like sneaky good. If that defense could be even above average this year and the offense can get back on track, which I think it's going to, the Chiefs are going to be just fine. And yes, while they did struggle against the Jaguars, I think Travis Kelce, as he gets more healthy going forward, and depending on how that relationship with Taylor Swift goes, I think the Chiefs are going to be able to shake off this rust pretty quickly and get back to beating the crap out of the rest of the league. Number 6, you got the Buffalo Bills. And if you want to know how that game went, well, this Josh Allen soundbite tells the whole story.
I think I got my swagger back. Oh.
That was the kind of game we've been waiting for with the Bills. And listen, there was an early touchdown pass to Devontae Adams, and you're like, oh no, is this going to be a problem? Nay. Josh Allen played mistake-free football, looked really, really good, and they did it. They ran the ball. And it wasn't Josh Allen. They actually gave the ball to running backs and stuck with the run game. And they blew the Raiders out. The defense played really well, and this is the kind of game you've been wanting to see from the Buffalo Bills. I mean, hey, that week 1 loss against the Jets is still not great, but the Bills needed to have this rebound game. I'm happy for them, and I think going forward, if they commit to the run, I think it's just going to help Josh Allen, so he's not going to have to be like Brett Favre, and no, not rip off the state of Mississippi, but have to do everything, because they live and die by Josh Allen, and guess what? Josh Allen, he had a lot of help on Sunday, and he played really damn well, and because of that, they won big. Number 5, you got the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens, I love you. And you got the win. That's the most important thing. You won. Still have injuries, though.
I'm fine. I feel like $1 million.
But in all honesty, while OBJ was injured, it doesn't look to be that serious. But Lamar Jackson had himself a day. He was super efficient. He took care of the football. And this was the kind of performance you wanted to see out of that offense. They seem to have found a stud in Zay Flowers who looks real good. The defense played smash mouth football and they bullied the Bengals that day. It's a big division win, and the Ravens right now, they're surrounded by a bunch of teams in the North who cannot stay healthy, and their offenses look completely defunct. The Browns offense, Steelers offense, and the Bengals offense, non-existent. So right now, the Ravens are the head of the flock. And if they can stay healthy, which we know they probably won't be able to, but even with some injuries, the Ravens, I think, are going to be contenders this year if they keep playing like that. Number 4, you got the other bird team. You got the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles, well, let's just say if they're struggling, they could just hand the ball to DeAndre Swift.
That'll do it. Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah, I'd say that'll do it.
I imagine Lions fans weren't too happy seeing DeAndre Swift absolutely tear apart the Vikings on Thursday Night Football. And the Eagles overall had a pretty damn good game, but it was led by that rushing attack. So many teams have been attempting that QB sneak that the Eagles do, that Jalen Hurts scored twice with on Thursday, and they're unable to do it because they have an insane offensive line, of course, led by Jason Kelce. And if the Eagles are able to have that power running game, they are going to be tough to stop. It looks like they're picking up right where they left off last year.
I'd say that does the trick.
Meanwhile, that defense continues to get pressure on opposing QBs. I like that a lot. Now, they are in a tough division because 3 teams are 2-0, but right now, I think the Eagles are sitting pretty in the top 5, and I'm curious to see what they look like when they take on a team like the Cowboys. Number 3, you got the Miami Dolphins. Whoo! I'm going to tell you, Dolphins, I like what you're doing a lot. Raheem Mostert, just speeding past the Patriots.
They've gone to plaid.
And yes, I did have flashbacks watching that because Raheem Mostert ran all over my team that one time. 4 touchdowns for Mostert. And the reason I like the Dolphins so much is because they won in 2 different ways. They got in a shootout with the Chargers week 1, and they won that through the air. Tua threw nearly 500 yards, Tyreek Hill over 200 yards. And then flash forward to week 2, they won via the ground game. And I think the Dolphins are proving that they can win in a variety of ways. I mean, Tyreek Hill was pretty quiet on Sunday night, but they had Jalen Waddle to fall back on. And again, if that didn't work, Raheem Mostert was having a night. They played a good offense in week 1 and a good defense in week 2. And right now, I really like the way the Dolphins are playing football. Let's see how high you can jump, Flipper. Number 2, you got the San Francisco 49ers dropping down a peg from number 1 last week, and it was just because they struggled a little bit against the Rams, which, by the way, apparently the Rams are a good team because this is what the 49ers looked like after Puka caught his 15th catch.
I really hate that man.
So yeah, a little closer than you would expect. Brock Purdy missed a few really deep throws, but Christian McCaffrey is still a monster. That team is still really, really good. They were only able to sack Stafford 1 time, but I think that's also a credit to the Rams' improving offensive line. And listen, the 49ers, I still think, are a very, very good football team. They're number 2, but the team in front of them is just a little bit better because of the style in which they are winning games. But just wait. I'm sure the 49ers are going to be just fine. And number 1, you got Micah Parsons. That's it. Nope, it's one person. If Brandon Parna can do it, I can too. It is the Dallas Cowboys because they beat the crap out of the New York Jets. Back-to-back Jersey teams just getting decimated. First, they shut out the Giants in week 1 Sunday Night Football, and then they picked off Zach Wilson 3 times. And at this point, opposing QBs, when they see Micah Parsons, they gotta be like this.
That's gonna kill me. That's real. That lives with us on Earth.
Because he is an absolute game wrecker. I said this on GPS. I think if Micah Parsons continues to play this way, you really need to consider him for MVP because he is playing that well. He's the best player on that defense, arguably the best player on that team. But if you look on the other side of that ball, CeeDee Lamb had an incredible day. Dak Prescott, sure, almost threw some interceptions, but it doesn't matter because right now, the offense doesn't even really need to do a whole lot because the defense is playing so well. And so right now, the Cowboys, I don't know if it's a fluke or not, but they are 2-0. Their defense looks to be for real. And I'm very curious to see what they look like against a quality opponent. So just to recap here, at number 1, you got the Cowboys, 2, the 49ers, 3, the Dolphins, 4, the Eagles, 5, the Ravens, 6, the Bills, 7, the Chiefs, 8, the Falcons, 9, the Saints, and 10, the Buccaneers. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. You can always find me at Tom Grossi Comedy at all social media. See down below. A big shout out and thank you to all the patrons and YouTube members for supporting this channel. And thank you for taking the time to watch this. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.